I wanted to talk to you guys about just architecture's role in pop culture,
Yeah,
because that goes back to what I was saying before about the everyday person is starting to really appreciate or become more curious about architecture, um, by maybe revisiting nostalgic mediums. Let's say like a movie. Um, let's say like an iconic moment in sports, um, or a game, um, or it could have been like a, let's say, a runway show, fashion runway show, and previously they would have appreciated the experience of that actual medium. But I think with the nostalgia, now they're starting to pay attention to the role that architecture played in within that, or how
yeah,
architecture was placed within that particular thing. Um, so I think that's really interesting. That's something I'm starting to see more. Also myself as well. So I wanted to know what you guys think about, I guess, the role that architecture plays within the pop culture space.
yeah. I think that it's
Because
just so.
I think it plays a huge role. It
I think it's
might
so.
not it might
Yeah,
not be like um the main focus at times, but it definitely allows everything else to function at a high level.
yeah. I think it's so integral in being like a harmonizer of multiple different like facets of, I don't know, film or media or music. So, for example, concerts and the architecture of the stage can create a feeling of the actual like an album or like its encapsulation of that point in time. Yeah. So, like Blade Runner, for example, the architecture within that, it wouldn't be the same movie if the architecture didn't look like that, for example.
Right.
So I think it's so integral in, yeah, I don't know, setting the scene, I guess.
I think your
Definitely setting the scene, yeah.
I think your Virgil Abloh example is really important,
Yeah.
where we see architecture or like his playfulness in pop culture more and
Yeah.
more, and it also help people to do those kinds of stuff in their own workflows as
Yeah.
well, separating from architecture or like still connected to it. And also, uh, as we also have like a exhibition right now in our school, which is people who were in the same class with Virgil Abloh, not in the same class, but he was their
Yeah, the
tutor, and
tutor.
they
Yeah.
continued their playfuls or like pop art related works
Yeah.
in furniture design or like in game design, for example. They designed cars for like Fortnite, the game, and like
Yeah.
I I also really like the exhibitions like playfulness because even a 5-year-old can like touch the objects that they're doing and like try to understand it, which is really important to our to future architects, young future architects,
Yeah.
to understand what they're dealing with, what they're doing, and yeah, I think these exhibitions are like really important for people to understand how it affects the pop art, and also uh, they are seeing it in the pop art culture or the media as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. One of I think also I think seeing architecture within a pop culture lens also is a great form of translation as well.
Yeah.
To I'll say mainly to the everyday person, really. Um, there was the Yeezus tour, Kanye's Yeezus tour, where he had the mountain stage, mountain stage design, and so with that he worked with an architecture firm called Family New York. So they're not operating anymore, but at the time, they worked together to design the mountain stage. And that was, I don't, that probably hasn't happened. That probably didn't happen before he did it, in terms of an artist collaborating with architects and building this stage that is his physical world almost. But you can also appreciate it in isolation as well. So I feel like that was a really interesting collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the architects within Family New York, her name is Juana Staniscu. She said that Kanye really made her feel like an architect.
Yeah.
Because she felt like within the architecture world, you only really get looked at as an architect after certain years of work that you put in.
Yeah.
And she felt like working with him, he already embraced her like an architect. And it made her feel, it gave her even more like motivation and inspiration as well, because he allowed her to tap into his world and build around his I guess his identity.
Yeah.
With the users tour. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it can be such a useful way of artistic expression, I think, in like a realized sense. So I think, yeah, I guess.
Well,
It has
Yeah,
been
definitely. What?
happening in the sphere of like the theater or performance. There's definitely some pretty good examples of architecture involved in set design for sure, and it's often touted as like a possible career outcome for people who have studied architecture. But I'm also just thinking of Aldo Rossi's Teatro del Mundo as maybe a seminal project when it comes to theater and architecture, and this idea of the ephemeral and temporary structures, impermanence, but then still having very significant cultural value and a knock-on effect. But perhaps you're kind of tapping into the fact that it's being recognized on such a at such a scale in terms of pop culture. I find that very interesting, not necessarily as a good thing, in this sort of hyper commercialization of architecture that tends to happen, I think, where the attachment to maybe the Kanye name is about selling selling an identity or but it's super interesting how that kind of goes hand in hand with what you were talking about, how architects in general are sort of more and more in the conversation of contemporary pop culture and design. There's some kind of gravitas to be, attaching the professional decision making of an architect to a design project, which is interesting. Again, I'm not sure if I'm on the fence about if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Is there do you have like a favorite moment where I guess architecture was placed within uh, a certain medium, a creative medium.
Don't want to.
Off the bat, when you were talking earlier about architecture in other media, I thought of movies. I thought of Blade Runner.
Okay.
There's this movie, what's it called, Metropolis. I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think kind of captures. It's interesting. It's this intersection of filmmaking as a bit of a novelty, a new media, and then also a new medium, and then this real fascination with the scale of our cities. I think so. That's definitely an interesting moment. I mean, it's also something that a lot of our tutors always bring
Yeah.
us back to as a reference. Yeah, I think architecture in movies is always an interesting, and it sort of again
Yeah.
ties into set design and that kind of thing, theatre. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the most potent ways I saw architecture, like in new media, would probably be in video games. I used to play a lot of Destiny 2, which is known for its sort of like fantasia, ephemeral, like sort of environment, and the fact that you're a character that can move throughout the space and like look at all these like sort of different forms of, created by the architecture within the game. It really allows you to sort of like appreciate because there's a lot of points aside from when you're like on shooting things that you can just walk around the map, you know, and just sort of explore it. And I think what contributes a lot to that is how the game designers sort of took into account, okay, how do you indicate to a person they need to go through this direction to proceed to the next part? It's like make it even more narrow, open a bigger space, you know. And these were things I didn't really notice before until I started learning more at the AA, and I sort of like started taking into
Okay.
account like how did the game designers really make each thing intentional with how they created this? But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's really interesting. Yeah. Because there's certain games where you have to like enter a building, or there's like a stage of a game. I know back in the day I used to play loads of Tomb Raider back in the day. Yeah. And there used to be certain parts of the game where Lara Croft had to enter like a building, and that's where she had to encounter like different like wolves and different animals, and it made you feel like you were in the building, you know. But at that time, I guess I wasn't thinking about the details of the building. But when you look back, you realize that played a huge role within the gaming experience.
Yeah, it's also just like about storytelling as well. You know, how architecture can be used as a tool for storytelling within the game, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
I wanted to say like it also like the mediums that we are like seeing or like watching or like playing is really attached to the culture, because I'm thinking about the dystopic cities of like different productions. Let's think about like Japanese animes like Akira, Evangelion. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but like we see like cities being big, but like in an event of emergency, they start to disappear or like go under the soil or like become a cave. I don't know, but in like more like Anglo-Saxon productions, we see like a castle when it comes to like a dystopic city. Think about like zombie films, you know. So like I think we can also like understand the architecture's availability to be changed by the culture of the production.
I think going back to music industry, like the stage design and the sort of the experience the stage can create. Like it's really interesting to see how architecture can be, I don't know, utilized in that way. I think like even like the Utopia by Travis Scott.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, it's really
Utopia was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Utopia was crazy.
But like,